Welcome to the Bros Talking Soccer podcast, a podcast where three brothers generally talk about what's happening in American and European soccer. It is day 23 of the 2019 World Cup. It is Saturday, June 29th. My name is Dave Knittel, the eldest Knittel brother. Christian and Matt are both busy today, the other Knittel brother, so I am joined by our friend Matt Lefler, as has been the case throughout this World Cup. Matt, thank you so much for being here. How you doing today?
I am doing great. It's been a great morning. It's sunny here in Seattle. Went to the farmer's market, ate some killer raspberries, had a nice cup of tea, watched some. I guess I watched some I watched some soccer. Didn't really go the way I wanted it, but hey,
There were portions of good play, and there's that. I'm doing okay. I'm a little tired, to be honest with you. Being on the West Coast, I haven't been feeling great the past few days, so I'm looking forward to being off the next 2 days and getting some sleep and hopefully healing up here. But before we get into talking about today's two matches, I want to give a couple quick plugs. We're part of the Stadium Scene Network. Go to stadiumscene.tv for all kinds of sports content, blogs, YouTube videos, podcasts, and more across a variety of sports. If you're a soccer fan, they have tons of soccer podcasts on there, so check it all out on stadiumscene.tv. We're also a part of the Big Heads Media Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for all kinds of podcasts. Anything you could possibly think of, they have podcasts on there about. They're up to close to 50 different podcasts about sports, crime, entertainment, history, so on. It's game shows, video games, everything you could think of is available over on bigheadsmedia.com. Before we get into today's matches, let's talk about our Jeff question. So Jeff, thank you for sending in these questions every day, and thank you for joining us live on YouTube. So the question today is, which are your three favorite states in America? Matt, let's start with that. So which are your three favorite states?
Michigan, Washington, and probably California.
Okay, and why each of them? Why Michigan?
Because I grew up there and it's way prettier than people think it is. The Midwest has some of the most fertile soil in the world. So fruits and vegetables that are grown there are absolutely off the charts good. So if you get like a broccoli stalk, it's actually a little sweet, like a touch sweet. It's insanely good. Washington, mountains, water. I love water. You've got like temperate rainforests, you've got desert, you've got just great stuff. Seattle's the best city, I think, in North America or in the United States to be in the summer. It's beautiful. And California is just fun. I like California. If I could retire anywhere, I would retire in Encinitas, California, but I don't want to blow over $1 million in a retirement home. So
yeah, it's expensive here. That's the only downside. So for me, I guess I got a similar vibe to you. I think my three favorites are Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and California. So
Jersey.
Yeah, I know Jersey gets a bad rap, but let's start with. Yeah, it's pretty there, and specifically the beaches. So most of Jersey I know from going to the Jersey Shore, specifically southern Jersey, so Ocean City, Sea Isle, those places. It's a ton of fun, tons of great memories there growing up, lots of, shops and bars and everything to go and eat at and spend some time at. And then the beaches are great too. And it's different being out here, especially in Northern California. Like the beaches aren't the greatest because the weather's not fantastic when you get out to the water. You would expect it to be, 80s and sunny, and that's more Southern California.
Right.
Really in Northern California, you're lucky if it gets above 75. I think it's just the Pacific Ocean and all of that. And so Jersey for the beaches, Pennsylvania, it's where I grew up. It's where I went to college. It's where I spent the first 24 years of my life, and tons of family there, great memories. You got the city, you got, mountains, and pretty much everything you could think of outside of beaches, which you get from Jersey. And then being here in California is it's just amazing living here. We absolutely love it here. We live in the city in the middle of San Jose. San Francisco's nearby. You can get to a ton of other, up the peninsula. Silicon Valley's right here. And then you can get to the beach within less than an hour. You have mountains all over the place, hiking. We can drive down to LA or fly down there. And there's just so much to do and see here. And it's absolutely gorgeous. If it was cheaper, this would be just an absolute home run, but it is kind of expensive here. So that's the only downside being in Cali. But those are my three favorites. But Matt, which state haven't you been to that you want to get to? That's the second part of Jeff's question.
New Hampshire or Maine.
Any like seafood? Why those two?
I I want to go hiking there. Seafood's good. I I really kind of like peaceful outdoors stuff being on water. People don't really give Michigan a lot of credit for being on water, but like I grew up on a town on Lake Michigan. People don't understand that you can't see across the lake because it's so damn big. It takes 7 hours to drive its length, and that's not even the biggest of the Great Lakes, right? So yeah, New Hampshire has like really great mountains, really great outdoor stuff, and Maine has that beautiful, beautiful, beautiful coastline and the mountains, and it's really rugged up there. So that's
So
why.
mine is going to be on a similar vein as your hiking one. I'm going to say Colorado. I've heard really great things about, Denver and Boulder. I've never been there, and I've seen pictures. Kristen's been there, my wife, and she's absolutely loved it. And so that would be a place that I think I want to get to. So
It's awesome there. It can be dusty. The air can be dusty there. That's the only reason why I don't like it because I'm allergic to dust. But yeah, it's great there.
all right. Well, that's good to know. So maybe I might have to change it up, but I'm sure I'll get there at some point. But thank you, Jeff, as always, for your questions. And oh yeah, I forgot we had a bonus question. I almost forgot this one. Matt, since you're a musician, which musician's guitar would you most like to own?
This is going to be another Matt answer. I don't really think like that. To me, even though I really enjoy guitars, to me, guitars are tools to make music. So all I really care about is how they sound. I mean, I do appreciate how they look. Like the one that I played yesterday is silver, and I had it painted by a guy who paints cars. To that silver, it's got like a little bit of blue in it, and so yeah, I really like that. But so I don't, I don't care. I'm not nostalgic like that at all. um, but if I was going to choose a musician's brand or kind of like their line of guitars, it would be the John Mayer Silver Cloud. I believe that's by Paul Reed Smith, but watch me be wrong by the maker of that. So
Most of this is going over my head, so you could say whatever, and I'd be like, okay, that sounds. I recognize the name John Mayer. So
yeah. I'll
yeah.
show you my favorite guitar. I have it back there in a little bit. I'll get it out here in a little bit and I'll show it
All
to
right,
you.
there you go. So if you're just listening to the podcast, make sure to tune into YouTube so you can see it and all of its glory. All right, let's talk about the games today. First match, early match, we had Italy taking on the Netherlands. Netherlands prevailed 2-0 with both goals coming in the second half. I know this was an early kickoff for us on the West Coast here, Matt, and I want to say that you were asleep, so you go with me just recapping the first half?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I'll do that while you pull up the guitar. So I thought early on, Netherlands was doing a better job of cycling the ball around the pitch than they were in previous matches. So they were going down the left side and then they were cycling it through the middle and then to the right side or pulling it back and cycling it through the defense and doing a good job of moving quickly rather than just trying to jam it down one side. And then as the game wore on, I thought that they got relatively predictable just trying to jam it down Van Descendant's side of the pitch. And so that was just an early note. First noteworthy thing that happened in the match came in the 18th minute for me, and this was just a lovely chipped ball over the top by Cernoia for Italy. She was the number 21. Bonansea gets a really nice flick over, I want to say it was Bloodworth, who was the center back marking her, and Bergamaschi, the Italian right winger, right midfielder, collects the ball off her chest, and then she hits a really weak shot here that Van Veenendaal is relatively easily able to collect here. And this was a huge missed chance for Italy. I thought that Bergamaschi needed to have better contact here. I don't know if she was just panicking because she didn't, think she had a ton of time, and or if she was trying to chip Van Veenendaal. I thought if she was trying to chip her, that was the wrong move. She just needed to go for power. You're 8 yards out, just place it and have a little bit more composure. But this was one of Italy's best chances here, and it was a poor performance by them. Netherlands had a fast start, like I talked about, and then they kind of slowed down after 15 minutes, and then Italy started to play better. Bonansea in the first half was all over the pitch. She was popping up on the right flank. She was popping up on the left flank. She was sometimes in the middle of the pitch, and she was kind of free to roam. I felt like, I touched on this a minute ago, but after the early part, so the first 15 minutes for the Netherlands, they really started to just target Van de Sanden, and she started to get really frustrated and started to just sort of quit on plays when they didn't come off for her. So when she would lose possession or there would be a bad pass, she kind of started walking, and you could just kind of see the frustration building up in her. 36th minute, there's a good possession by Italy, and then long ball over the top. There's a fortunate deflection off Van Dongen where she's kind of facing the wrong way, and well, she's running back and the ball just hits her on the head. mid, and it bounces to an Italian attacker, and they play it over to Giacinti, and she drags her shot wide. But this again was probably the second best chance for Italy in the match, and they didn't hit the target yet again. Netherlands, all of their crosses in the first half were coming in low and were relatively easily being cut out by the goalkeepers and the defense. I thought that they needed to either pull the ball back more and do that, drive to the end line and cut it back to the penalty spot or top of the 18, or float some in there. I know Gamma and Linari are relatively good in the air and are good center backs. Thought that they needed to vary up their delivery on those. 41st minute, there's a good run by Miedema on Linari's blind side, and there's a foul called here. I thought it was a kind of a soft foul. Linari maybe got her a little bit. I thought it was more just Miedema tripping up and kind of falling over herself. Linari picks up a yellow card here, and it results in a weak free kick by Spitza. But again, just Linari picking up a yellow card here, I thought might have had implications. I didn't think either of the center backs for Italy had a fantastic performance, and Linari specifically had played much lower than her level in the previous match, and I didn't know if this factored into that at all. Lastly, Van de Donk was relatively slow on the ball in the first half, kind of dwelling a little bit. Let me pause there. Matt, any questions, any thoughts, any highlights that you saw from the first half? Are you ready to talk about the second?
Let's move on to the second half.
Okay, so second half, and did you see all this, or?
I did.
So what were your thoughts on the second?
I was, first of all, like, Italy came out with like an incredible fast passing sequence. It was basically just like one touch, settle. It was their passes were stout. They were crisp. It didn't amount to anything. It was just awesome to watch. I was blown away with how effective the Netherlands looked in the second half. Italy didn't look like they had an answer. I hadn't watched the first half, so I was wondering, did they look tired? Did they look more up for it in the first half? But they were awful. They weren't awful. They just were being overwhelmed.
Yeah, they were. So it's interesting you said that they came out pretty strong, because I thought Italy looked pretty lethargic in the second half. I thought Italy was okay in the first half. Again, after 15 minutes or so, it was relatively back and forth in the match.
Okay.
And then once the second half started, it was all Netherlands. Italy they just looked tired and worn out. We had touched on it in the past that Italy had the fewest amount of squad rotation in the earlier stages, and I think they just kind of ran out of steam, quite frankly, in this tournament. 56th minute, Van de Sanden comes off and Berenstein comes on.
Wow, what a sub.
Yeah, it was. Berenstein was much more effective than Van de Sanden, and arguably she might have earned herself a starting spot. I haven't been overly impressed with Van de Sanden in this tournament, and I know Berenstein, it's a different animal when you're coming in towards the end of the match and you're coming up against a tired defense than it is versus starting. But every time she's come onto the pitch, I feel like it's been an upgrade over Van de Sanden. Any thoughts on that, Matt?
Oh, I agree completely.
Okay. I don't know if we need to. So 58th minute, Netherlands hits the crossbar, and this is Van de Donk. 63rd, Spitza hits a free kick, and that comes off the post. And again, this was just Netherlands dominating in the match. You could really start to see it taking a toll on Italy. They started to get into it with the referee, who, again, I thought was a little bit more confrontational than what I like to see from referees. Right. Clearly, the Italians are fired up, and this is a high intense match. I don't think it's great to get in their face and yell back. Not that it should be excused when the Italians do that, but again, the referee, you're escalating the situation when you do that. It's fine to not tolerate being yelled at. Pull them aside, let them calm down, and then you talk to them and say that's unacceptable, but having someone yell at me and then you yell back, again, it's not what I love to see from refereeing. And the referee did this on a couple different occasions. I think at least twice for Italy and also once for the Netherlands. She got into it with Van de Donk as well. 70th minute is when Netherlands gets their first goal. So it's a Spitza free kick on the far side of the pitch. Absolutely lovely ball floated in between the penalties, right around the penalty spot. And Miedema gets a flick on it, far post, and directs it in. Taking one step back, I thought that this was a relatively soft foul on Van de Donk here. And this was Gamma and her just sort of, Gamma was standing her up. Maybe she put her hands on her, but Van de Donk, I think, went down relatively easily, and Gamma was frustrated at this. And I think she had a slight right to be, because, again, I didn't think that this was much of a foul. Matt, any thoughts on that?
No, I didn't think it was much of a foul either. And frankly, Van de Donk's been doing that stuff all tournament long. And, and I pointed out in the in the Canada match where Vanderdonk, basically punch shoves Jesse Fleming in the back when the refs aren't looking. So she kind of pulled that stuff, like little
Yeah.
mind gamey things.
Absolutely. And then the one thing I do want to point out on this goal is that Gamma is marking Miedema at the start of when the free kick is coming in. And Miedema has a really intelligent move to use Sabatino almost as a pick for Gamma. And Sabatino is Italian as well as Gamma. And she uses her own player to sort of get some freedom. And that's why Miedema is relatively unmarked here and able to flick it into the far post. Did you happen to see that or any thoughts on that?
I did. It was a nice play. It was a nice finish. It was.
Okay.
That's really all I have. I mean,
All right.
I just watched it and enjoyed it, type thing.
Absolutely, and it's always good seeing Miedema get a goal. She's been incredible for the Netherlands. 80th minute, Netherlands gets their second goal, and it again comes on a free kick, and it again comes from Van de Donk winning the free kick. Spitze again plays in a lovely ball, perfectly weighted, and this one has a little bit more like driven and flat, whereas the one in the 70th minute was sort of curved in on net. This one's a slightly different delivery, but amazing nonetheless. And Van der Gracht, the center back for the Netherlands, just beats her marker, Joani. Yes, I think I got that pronunciation right. Joani on the far post. And this was just straight up like, I'm beating you in the air. And that's what Van der Gracht did here. Any thoughts on this goal?
It was pretty simple. You put the free kick up, it goes across the box. The center back, I'm not going to say that name. The center back, out jumps the defender, and bam, the ball's in the back of the net.
Absolutely. 83rd minute, Italy has a relatively good chance. So this is probably the third best chance of the match. And this is when they slip the ball through to Sabatino, and Van Veenendaal comes out well. Does well to smother it, gives up a corner, but that was kind of the last real chance of the game. Netherlands relatively, just clearly the stronger side. They deserved to go through. Italy fought hard, but just basically ran out of steam. And that was kind of the way that their World Cup went. I think that they overachieved based on what the expectations were coming into this, based on the group that they were in. I don't think any of us expected them to get to the quarterfinals. And so they should be commended for doing that. But I thought that they could have used more squad rotation earlier on. And again, this is their first tournament, at least World Cup in 20 years. I think that they've learned from this. They'll learn to rotate a little bit more, keep players fresh. And with the Serie A, I don't know if it's called Serie A, the Italian league. Do you know what the Italian women's league is called?
I don't know. I'll look it up though.
Yeah. So with that league continuing to develop and, Juventus and Fiorentina and Roma pouring more money into their women's sides, this Italian team is only going to get stronger, and it bodes well for the future. Patrick is chiming in here and said the Italians did well and should be a real player next time. Absolutely. I think we can. I'll agree with that. Matt, any thoughts on that? Matt, you're on mute.
Yes, I had it on mute while I was looking up. I should not have done that. I was like, oh, I don't want to have the keys. So, sorry, I was confused by that. So what did you say?
Any thoughts on Italy being a real player for the next World Cup, or just their performance at this World Cup?
Oh, their performance was amazing. I hope that they're a real player for the next World Cup. I wanted them to win this game. I've been really impressed. They clearly need more high quality players to be able to compete because they ran out of juice. And yeah, I expect, oh, by the way, the name of it is Serie A Women.
Okay, so it is Serie A.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that they probably just had a little bit of lacking quality, specifically on the front line and or the attackers, and potentially outside backs. Again, they just kind of ran out of steam with their outside backs. Those would be areas to reinforce or look for Italy to develop. And, again, I would agree with that. Before we move on to the next one, Sal says he thinks it was Fender that was doing the John Mayer guitar. So I don't know if that helps.
So Fender used to do the John Mayer guitar, but the Silver Cloud guitar, which I'll look up right now, is by a different company. It was kind of a big stink too that he did that.
All right. So there's your music/guitar talk for the day. If you are listening to the podcast, you're going to hear a little bit of music.
Silver Sky guitar, and it is by Paul Reed Smith. So yeah.
Okay. All right. So there you have it. If you're listening to the podcast, you're going to hear a little bit of music and a plug for one of our friends from Big Heads Media, and we'll talk to you soon. And if you're watching live on YouTube, I forget who I'm plugging for the Big Heads Media, but Matt is showing you the guitar. So Matt, say something so people can see it.
It's a guitar that I made for my wife.
You made that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I ordered the kit and then I assembled it, but yeah. And I ordered all the parts and got like special custom. These are pickups right here. They pick up the sound. I got special custom pickups made and all that stuff. And then
Very
yeah,
cool.
and then I got it. If you can see that, it says love
Oh,
there. Got that etched in
yes.
there. Yeah.
Oh, that's very cute. Let me look this up very quickly so I can give a proper plug to who I'm supposed to be plugging here.
Okay.
And it is go check out 28 ITS. I think it's a baseball podcast. So if you're into baseball, go look on Big Heads Media and check out. It's the sign. Oh, God damn it! All right, just bear with me, people. No, we don't usually. Matt, entertain any stories or anecdotes you want to share while I'm doing
So
this.
here I'll show off.
Into the Shift. That's what it's called.
So basically, this guitar is my very first ever guitar. I bought it in 1984 because I was a busboy, and the headstock right there kind of looks like Gumby.
Yeah, yes, it does.
So yeah, it's a very 70s looking guitar. My daughter loves it. So yeah.
All right.
All right.
Very cool. The podcast is called Into the Shift Baseball Podcast. So if you're into baseball, make sure to go check that out. All right, back to the show. I like the Dutch as a dark horse to win it all. That's from Patrick.
It's possible. Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely possible. What year Telecaster parts did Matt order? Matt, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I don't know. If he wants to, he can contact me directly on Twitter and I can figure out where I got him from.
All right, Sal at Northwood Guitar. Matt can help you out with that stuff. Patrick, that's a good question. Yeah, why don't I'll bring people back and then we'll talk about that before we talk about the next match. All right. Welcome back, everyone. Hope you enjoyed that break and that plug for our friends over on Into the Shift. While we were away, we had a question on YouTube, and I wanted to bring this up. Patrick likes the Dutch as a dark horse to win it all. I know we're in the semifinals, so I don't know how much of a dark horse it is at this point, but they probably are. Well, I would say the third favorites at this point. I would put them ahead of Sweden. But Matt, how do you rank everybody of the remaining teams? Of the four, where do you put everybody?
Probably the United States, England, the Netherlands, and then Sweden. But England and the Netherlands, it's kind of hard to pick. The Netherlands hasn't faced like a really strong offensive team yet, have they?
Offensive team, I'm not sure. I mean, they went up against Germany, and so depending on how you consider them, I mean, they had. It wasn't like they were lighting the world on fire, but they're still a relatively good squad, right? And then I'm pulling up. I wouldn't say Canada or Cameroon were lighting the world on fire offensively. So no, I would say they probably haven't.
So I think the United States and England have the two best offenses left. Who aren't the Netherlands, because the Netherlands have a great offense as well. So
okay,
yeah, all right. I'm gonna stop for now on.
Okay. So 3 of the 4, basically Sweden is the only one that's not as good, which I think we would agree with. And speaking of Sweden, let's talk about their match versus Germany. Patrick, that's a good shout though. I think Netherlands definitely has a chance here. Germany versus Sweden. Sweden ends up prevailing 2-1 in this one. Matt, overarching thoughts on the game before we dig into things?
This is kind of a frustrating kind of bruiser fest in a lot of ways. Sweden just got really physical. They just out-mentaled Germany. They were more mentally prepared for this game.
Which is shocking.
Yes, especially after Hingst. What's the comment? She was saying that Germany's, just better off mentally than Sweden. That was not the case at all.
So I would agree with that, but I also thought there were some really interesting lineup decisions from Germany. I thought that it was really odd to not have the holding midfielders that they had played with up until this point, whether it was Oberdorf or Leopolds. They decided to go with Pop in the center defensive midfielder role when she started the tournament as a center striker for them. Mm-hmm. And so I know she has been playing center midfield for them, but again, I thought that was a really odd decision, and I think that really played out as the match wore on. And we can talk about it specifically at halftime. I know we exchanged some messages, but let's talk about the first half first. And especially early on, I thought Germany was doing a fantastic job of having positional fluidity, specifically in their midfield and forwards, and it was causing Sweden problems. And as the game wore on, they went away from this. But early on, De Brits was popping up all over the place. Dahlman was all over the place. Schuller was at center forward, then she was out on the wing, and then she was somewhere else. And I think that it really was working for Germany in the early stages, and it just sort of ran out of doing things. They just sort of stopped doing all of this. And I think it was a combination of Sweden adjusting and going more direct, and kind of Germany not having a center midfield, in my opinion. And also just Germany going away from it for whatever reason. They just got static. But Matt, any thoughts on that?
I think you're right. I mean, Germany basically resorted to what they think is their best game plan, which is to feed balls in the box. Unfortunately, Sweden's bigger. They're probably better in the air. I mean, like, so you've got Pop, who was often in the box, vacating her defensive role, her holding mid position. She's good in the air. But you've got like Nilla Fisher, and I forget who the other center back is. And literally everybody on Sweden's back line is tall.
Sembrant, I believe is her name.
It is Sembrant. Okay, I can remember. So I just couldn't believe that they were playing like this and then continued to play like this offensively. It's like there was no joy doing this.
Yeah, it was an interesting decision from Germany. 12th minute, Sweden has their best attack up until this point, and this was a great slip ball through. I wish I had noted it was either Rubinson or Sagar, I believe, to Jakobsen. And there's a really good kick save by Schultz, and that was kind of the first warning sign for Germany. But up until that point, Sweden wasn't really dangerous, and this was their kind of first chance. And then switching gears a little bit, then 16th minute, Germany gets their goal, and this comes after just a terrible turnover by the Swedish defense. Yeah, Debritz does relatively well to intercept it, but it's also way too easy for of a pass by Sweden for her to intercept. And then so she collects it. She ends up driving at the center of the defense, straight through the middle. And as the back line is sort of in chaos, Schiller does a good job of making a run to drag out, I think it's Fischer, the center back for Sweden, and create space. And Magul has an excellent run from deep. I'm a huge fan of runs from midfield because they really unbalance the defense. And so I was so excited to see this. So Magul makes an excellent run. Debritz plays a fantastic ball. It's like kind of this little like half chip. It's not like over people's heads, but it's not on the ground, so people can't use their legs. Magul catches, tries to settle it. It ends up popping up a little bit. And then she turns and on a swivel sort of volley, hits it into the net. It was a really nice goal. Matt, thoughts on the goal?
That was great. That's the goal of the day for sure. So,
all right. Anything else? Any other thoughts on the movement? Any thoughts on Sweden or anything like that?
Well, I mean, Sweden looked like they were in disarray because of the Magul run. They weren't prepared for a run out of midfield, I didn't think, which is why she had so much space.
Yeah, and then like I said, Magul was having some success doing that, and then they just kind of sort of went away from all of that. And I think it was a combination of Sweden adjusting, but also it was just Germany just getting static and predictable. 22nd minute, Sweden gets their goal, and this came from relatively nothing. It was a ball popped free it was probably about 35 yards to 40 yards from Sweden's own net, and the ball was coming across the middle of the pitch, and I think it was Sembrant. Yeah, it was Sembrant, just clears the ball straight up the middle. I don't think that this was necessarily a designed play for her to hit it over the top. I think that she is legitimately just looking for Blackstenius's head just as an outlet and just putting it up the middle of the park. Blackstenius misjudges it, as does Hegering, the center back for Germany. And while that's happening, Simone is marking Jakobsen, and as Jakobsen basically takes a chance as a forward and gambles on Hegering misplaying this, and Simone does the opposite. She has confidence in her center back, and so she leaves Jakobsen and starts to drift out wide, assuming that Hegering is going to win this. Germany's going to collect possession, and she'll be able to go the other way. That was kind of the fatal flaw here, because Jakobsen then collects the ball. Hegering misjudges it, which again was the other piece of the fatal flaw. And then Jakobsen takes one touch, sets herself up, and then finishes far post. An excellent goal, but it really came about by two defensive mistakes by Germany that you wouldn't expect them to make. Matt, thoughts on this?
Well, this kind of highlights Germany's like defensive lapses the whole tournament. They haven't been super pressed either, I think, up until this point. Hegering has been questionable kind of the whole tourney, and here she sort of just didn't really mark Jakobsen, I thought, coming in for that run. She just didn't expect the ball.
Well, I don't think it was Hegering's job to mark Jakobsen, in fairness. This was Simone's job.
Okay.
Hegering was marking Blackstenius, and I honestly think Blackstenius misjudging the ball throws off Hegering. So,
Okay.
because I
All
think
right.
she was still concerned with marking Blackstenius. She's like, oh, Blackstenius is here. I need to be close to her. And then, oh
Gotcha.
no,
All right.
she misjudged it. And then it flies over my head. And at that point, Jakobsen was being marked by Simone, but takes a gamble again, coming inside, and Simone does not track her. So I'll
But
fault her. Yeah.
but wasn't she released to Hegering at that point because Blackstenius was farther up the pitch?
No, well,
Okay.
no,
Okay.
that
Okay.
she
Okay.
was, but
Okay. All right.
that's not on Hagering there. She was
Okay.
released by Simone, and it was Simone's fault because
Okay.
Hagering is marking Blackstenius in that
Gotcha.
instance. Now,
Gotcha.
having said all of this, Hagering definitely plays a role because she shouldn't have been as concerned with Blackstenius. She needed to follow the flight of the ball, and she needed to win this. So it's not
Oh,
like
completely.
Hagering. It's not like Hagering is blameless here, but it's not all on her shoulders, in my opinion. Simone could have done better to track her runner as well.
I thought there was also a problem with the fact that Germany had like everybody up the pitch except for kind of their two center backs. That was one thing that I noticed. One of the things that they created a lot of their own issues was once Sweden started countering a lot, they just sent their fullbacks high up the pitch no matter what. And so all Sweden had to do was like thread a ball between the two center backs who were not getting on top of those balls at all. And then hope that I don't know. They just had too many numbers forward. They should have had three people back so that one person could have played more centrally and not given that space between the two center backs, especially because is it Schultz? Is that the German keeper? Or
I think it's
Schuler?
just Schultz. It's
Schultz.
Schultz without the
Okay.
Z. Yeah.
Okay. Schultz wasn't coming off her line at all to pick up those balls when they were coming through. And so it was just, again, it was kind of like a comedy of errors because all these things were happening and nobody was adjusting in any way. So,
Yeah, and I think Germany has that fine line between self-confidence and arrogance, and sometimes they can really cross over into arrogance and not adjust, things because they just believe so much in what they're doing. And I think we saw that kind of play out here. And it all started with the lineup decisions. So what you're talking about, I think a lot of those issues would have been solved if you had a defensive midfielder in there
probably.
who could either hold people accountable or cover for them when they got forward. And that didn't happen here. And then you didn't see the adjustments. Germany was just like, no, this is going to work. I do also want to give Sweden credit. They sat very far back they played Canada, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that they were much more bunkered against Canada. And I thought in this one, they were more open and sort of adventurous. Not like they were wide open, but they were definitely more adventurous than what I expected them to be. And then that they were against Canada. And coming up against Germany, which I would argue is a stronger side than Canada, I think that surprised me. And I would guess it surprised Germany as well. Any thoughts on that?
Well, then why didn't Germany make any kind of adjustment to account for it? I mean, it's
Yeah.
simple. It's like move somebody the heck back.
Yeah.
Put
Yeah.
more numbers, put one more person back there to create one more obstacle to go around. Do anything to shield your back line.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you there. Now, having said all of this, this was the first goal that Germany conceded in the World Cup. They haven't come up against very strong, attacking teams, but there were warning signs there, but they hadn't conceded up until this point. But that doesn't mean that, again, there weren't warning signs. Similar to England, there are warning signs there from those center backs that if I'm an English fan, and we'll talk about that in the next one. But yeah, this was just not great play from Germany here. 43rd minute, there's an injury sub. Simone has to come off, and Meyer comes on, and Germany decides to put on Meyer ahead of Schwers, who had played previously in the World Cup and had been the left back. And when they brought Meyer on, she went to right back, and Gvin ended up coming to left back. And again, it's lineup tinkering. It's do you need to make those decisions, and do you need to have? It's great that players have positional flexibility, but you have Gavin playing all over the pitch in this tournament. You have Pop playing all over the pitch, from striker to center midfielder to defensive center midfielder. And at a certain point, I just didn't agree with some of the decisions that the manager was making. Just do a like for like sub. And I think that, again, I wasn't a huge fan of that sub. And then that's the end of the first half. Any other thoughts on the first half before we talk about the second?
No.
All right, halftime comes, Dahlman comes off, and Marjan comes on. And Marjan, again, I think that she came on and was playing more as like a center midfielder than an attacking center midfielder. And Magul was kind of free to roam. And as the half wore on, things started to shift and change a little bit. But again, I thought what Germany needed as a sub was to bring on a defensive center midfielder, free up Dabritz to get further forward, free up pop to get further forward, and maybe in later on in the match bring on Marjan as an attacking player and more creative, and not task her with some defensive responsibilities, because the position that she came on in, I think that she had too much to do defensively, and you didn't necessarily see her flourish. And again, the Germany team didn't flourish. Any thoughts on that, Sub?
No, I didn't really pay much attention to it, to be honest.
Fair enough. 48th minute, Sweden gets their goal. And this, I know we saw this differently. So this all play kind of starts with the ball getting to Magul around the halfway line and a Swedish player tackling her. And it was one of those where Magul has the Swedish player on her back. The ball comes to, I want to say it's her right foot. Again, she's facing her own goal. And the Swedish player comes and kind of kicks the ball. And so the ball goes sideways. So through to across Magul's body and then to the left, and the player comes through Magul. Magul goes down. I didn't think it was a foul. Matt, you thought it was a foul, and this was, again, neither of us have seen a replay here, but why did you think it was a foul?
So, well, she went through Magul. So Glass went through Magul. To me, that's usually almost always a foul. However, I did actually go back and rewatch it after the match.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, like 2 or 3 times. Glass got the ball. She got the ball and then continued through Magul. Now, obviously, Magul is running toward Glass, so that might be just like incidental contact at that point. Once I saw what happened and kind of got a chance to re-examine it, I was like, okay, yeah, I see why it's not called.
So, and these can go either way, in my opinion. So this Glass didn't slide tackle here. Yes, she comes through Magul, but I don't think she comes through Magul in an incredibly reckless sort of way,
right,
whether it was slide tackle. And so for me, especially in the middle of the pitch, like, I like physical battles, I like tackles, and I like the game to flow. And so I don't want calls to be for this, calls like this to be called as fouls. And so an initial viewing, and I haven't seen a replay, but I thought it was a foul. I thought it was good to play on. And so Sweden collects the ball. And I believe, again, I didn't note the exact person, but it was, I believe, either Eriksson or Sembrant. And they collect the ball, and they have a fantastic line splitting pass into Aslani. And so they collect the ball. Like I said, it was coming across kind of the center circle and moving towards the left side of the pitch. And so they collect the ball and kind of keep it along that path. And their body, like, so much of what they were doing was saying they were going to pass it up the line. And I think Germany expected that too. And what the player does, again, I wish I noted the exact person. It was either Eriksson or Sembrant, but they play kind of across their body and sort of close their hips and play it into Aslani, who's in space. And again, it was very disguised and really well done. Aslani does well to get the ball, turn, and start driving at the German defense. She ends up working the ball wide to Jakobsen, and Jakobsen floats in across to Rolfo on the back post. She gets a really good header to it, and it's a fantastic save by Schultz here, coming across her body. She can't do much beyond just get her fingers to the ball, can't really parry it anywhere. It ends up falling to Blackstenius, and she's there to roof home the rebound. But overall, just a fantastic goal by Sweden. Matt, what did you make of this?
So one thing I was wondering is, it kind of looked to me like maybe Germany thought that was going to be a foul, and I thought for about 2 seconds they just shut off, and then that allowed Sweden to advance even more easily than they that line splitting pass was fantastic. It may have gone it may have gone through anyway, but Germany certainly helped things along by looking like they weren't ready.
Yeah, and you could even see when they showed a replay, the goalkeeper was yelling that was a foul. And pointing, yeah, I know Ali Wagner said she was yelling at her defense, and I'm terrible at lip reading, and even I could tell she was saying that was a foul. Yeah, and so I think you're spot on there, where Germany expected it to be a foul or thought there was going to be VAR or something to kind of save them, and they were counting on that, and that doesn't excuse them for completely shutting off. Anything else on the goal?
No.
All right. At this point, yeah, I noted no Leopolds or Oberdorf was just probably Germany's undoing, and I think it ultimately was. Germany, they were so good in the first half with their midfield runners, and then just completely static in the second. I think a combination of, Pop and Marutzan, as good as they are, they're not exactly incredibly mobile and creative with their movements. They're more get on the end of things or give me the ball and I'll do something with it. And to have them as your 2 center midfielders, yeah, Magul was still sort of buzzing around, but it wasn't the same and it wasn't as dynamic in the second half. 66th minute, Fischer has to go off for Illerstadt, and that's Swedish captain. The only reason I noted it was just because there was potential for Sweden to, you're losing your captain. They had played so well up until that point. I didn't know if that was going to have implications, and ultimately it didn't. Sweden still maintained their discipline. They closed out the game really well, and so I think they deserve mention and credit for doing that with the captain going off in the 66th. 69th, Oberdorf finally comes on, and Germany switches things up, but it was too little too late. All right, then Germany has a chance here around the 80th minute, and so I didn't know the exact time, but this is the play where the ball is crossed in. I think they call pop offside, and it's very, very tight. And then Pop gets ahead to it. She ends up missing the target, and Lindahl just absolutely clears her out. It was 100% a foul on Lindahl if this wasn't called offside. But they called offside here, and it didn't go to it. Like, they did a long VAR review, but the center official didn't go look at the replay. Matt, what did you make of this play? Are you okay with it standing? Did you think that it should have been reviewed and or changed?
It should have been reviewed, and it was. At least, by the VAR officials. Definitely Lindahl just clobbered Pop in the neck. Pop was offside. She was. Ball or parts of her body that you're allowed to play the ball with were beyond the deepest defender. And so that's how the game works. So it was a good call.
And this is another one where it was so tight. Like, we're talking inches here. And again, it's not black and white. I feel like a broken record at this point saying it, but it's not black and white on offside calls. And the official called her offside. This wasn't a clear and obvious error. And so I'm fine with this standing. And yeah. So that's pretty much it. I'm not going to harp too much on this. 88th minute, Marjan has a free kick, and she floats it in really well. Lindahl completely whiffs on the ball, and Oberdorf she's challenged on the header on the far post, but she needs to do better, and she just misses the target completely. And so it was really unfortunate for her there. And there was another situation in the 93rd, a kind of similar situation. Marjan plays it wide to Huth. She clips it to the far post, and Hagering. This one was a little bit tougher. It was just above her head, and she couldn't get it down. But Sweden does well to close it out, and they're moving on here. Matt, final thoughts from this game?
No, it was kind of disappointing. I didn't really care that much about who came out of this game victorious. I did think that Sweden took their opportunities to be physical behind the play and off the ball with Germany, and I think that also kind of messed with Germany's confidence. That kind of gamesmanship is always kind of disgusting. You watch CONCACAF games, and those teams are famous for just doing absolutely everything they can mentally to get inside an opponent's head, and I don't like it. And then hearing, the commentator who's the English person who's not Kelly Smith. I can't remember what her name is.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about.
No. I'm sorry. It wasn't her, but no, it was Kelly Smith. She pulled that girl's ponytail, the Swedish player's ponytail, after the Swedish player stomped on her injured foot on purpose, and so it just, I get it. You want to get in it.
Wait, Kelly Smith, what? Isn't Kelly Smith like...
Yeah. She was telling the story about how she.
This is from like years ago, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Non sequitur city here. So, yeah, but it's just this type of thing that makes me go, maybe they're kind of gross. And to be frank, Nila Fisher. Every time I see her, I think of this goofy video called Nilla Wafer Top Hat Time. Anyway, okay. moving on. It's pretty entertaining. Nila Fisher, she's a good center back, but she's really physical, and I don't know, she gets a little dirty.
No, absolutely. Germany took a beating in this game. Magul got hit a bunch. Schuller had to come out injured because she was hurt. Simone, I'm not sure. She had to come out for an injury. I'm not sure if that was just physical play, but yeah, I mean, Sweden was exceptionally physical in this game, and I think that they combined it with a bit more skill than what we've seen from, maybe like the Chinese team, which took a lot of flack for being physical. But sure. Sweden, I think, maybe gets a pass because they still had skilled players, and some of the goals that they scored were relatively nice. And so, not that it should be excused, but I'm just trying to find reasons for, why maybe people aren't more upset about this. Any thoughts on that?
No, sir.
All right. But Sweden's moving on. They will face the Netherlands on Wednesday. But the other game, and the game that we're going to preview here, oh no, we got to do our of the days. I almost forgot our of the days. What was your save of the day, Matt?
The Schultz save that right before the Sweden's second goal. I love that save.
Which one was that? Oh, the header.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really nice. I'll say the Schultz save in the 12th minute. So this was the first real chance for Sweden. Jakobsen has slipped through, and Schultz makes a really nice kick save. So I'll take that as the save of the day. Matt, what was your goal of the day? I think you alluded to it earlier.
Yeah, it's the Magul goal, Germany's only goal.
Okay. I think that you know what? I'll take Sweden's second goal because again, I just thought that it was so well done to collect. So first off, to win the ball from at the defense, and then to hit that line splitting pass that I think it was a defender hit. It was just really nice into Aslani. They worked the ball across the pitch, so it comes kind of almost in like a Z-shaped pattern. The ball, and eventually, Blackstenius is there to tap it home. But it was just fantastic build up play. So I'll take that as my goal of the day. Matt, what was your moment of the day?
Just the Sweden win and kind of watching, it was a long moment watching Germany wilt and then seeing kind of the realization, hey, we're not capable of pulling this out. They've got our number. That was kind of an incredible thing to witness because there's so much drama in the sport, right? So that's my moment of the day that happened really over about 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, I don't have necessarily a moment of the day. I'll take just the final whistle in that match, and I always love seeing the managers, and you just see the celebrations, and the playing staff and the coaching staff all coming together, and so I'll take that as my moment of the day. So kind of similar thing. Now, I tried to talk about it before, but now we're ready to talk about it. We have the USA taking on England at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday, July 2nd, I want to say it is. I don't have the calendar up.
It is July 2nd.
All right. I got that one. All right. Awesome. Matt, what are you expecting to happen in this one?
I'm not completely sure. I think the United States is going to win. I'm wondering if it's going to go to overtime. That's basically what I'm questioning.
Are you worried about a letdown at all where so much has been built up about France versus US in the quarterfinals? Is that like a factor in any of this for you?
With past US teams, yes. This one, no. They are on point. They keep getting better. They have so much self-belief. The Megan Rapinoe kind of White House comment could have been a huge distraction. It wasn't. It galvanized the team. Everything seems to be making this group stronger and more lethal.
I kind of feel the same way. So I think the, lazy narrative is to kind of say that, but if all of the, Rapinoe Trump distraction didn't impact them, and specifically didn't impact her, in fact, it fueled her, right. You would argue even more if that didn't happen. I mean, I don't think that you'll see that here. Having said that, I mean, England is certainly no pushover.
They're good.
But have they really been challenged in this tournament the way that the US has been tested for you?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either. And while they'll be motivated, I don't think that they've really had a challenge up until this point. And I think that the U.S. is battle tested. They have a history of playing well, and I'm certainly not saying the U.S. is going to roll here, but I think just having those little edges that they'll have, I think will give them the advantage here. I also think it'll be really interesting. Neither of us were very impressed with Rose Lavelle in the last match. I'm not certain if she'll start here or if Jill Ellis will stick with her lineup that's won her the past 2 games. What do you think about that? Any thoughts?
I don't really know. I also don't think it's a mistake to start her. I think that everybody has a bad game every now and then. This was the biggest occasion of Rose Lavelle's life. You're playing France in the World Cup in France, so also, by the way, just to bring it up, some other podcasts disagreed and thought that Lavelle actually had an okay game. She wasn't great on the ball, but they said basically she was doing her job well. But I don't know. I mean, her creativity, I think that would help a lot versus versus England, because England's defense has also kind of like been like Germany and shown themselves to shut off or be suspect at times. So maybe that kind of like on the ball creativity will really help.
Yeah, and obviously, so we're both American. We're based in the U.S., so we've been talking and focused a lot on the U.S. women's national team, and we have more familiarity with that. Switching gears or trying to put on our hats from an English perspective, I mean, what do you think they have to do to challenge the U.S. or get a result here? Any thoughts on that?
Well, they have to clean up their defense and play very, very, very intelligently, which I actually think they're capable of doing. So before I go any further, England is entirely capable of taking the United States down in this match. They are a very good team. Phil Neville he's creative. The quality of the players is very, very, very high. Was it Scott, that central midfielder? She's been electric through this whole tournament.
Yeah, she's been all over the pitch.
She's been insane. And I think that, if Julie Ertz can mark her out of the game, then that's going to really hamstring or hamper England. But so they have to be really organized. They have to be very disciplined. They can't try to like take the game over individually, because the only way to beat the United States, really, none of them is Marta when she was at the top of her game. They're going to have to stay within their system and then hope that their system works. And then Phil Neville is going to have to adjust and make like the proper coaching decisions in game to possibly take the United States down.
Yeah, and I think that Lucy Bronze and Nikita Paris, if they're the ones starting on the right side of the pitch going up against Crystal Dunn, what's that?
Yeah, I was going to say that could be a problem.
Yeah, and so again, in the last match, we had Megan Rapinoe being instructed to stay higher up the pitch, but in this one, again, if Dunn is stranded 1v2, or if a center midfielder is forced to come over and help her out, that could be an area that England can exploit. And then, with Jill Scott sort of floating around, I didn't think Fran Kirby has had a fantastic tournament. She seems to be the other kind of dangerous center midfielder. And so if she just sort of starts to come to life, and you have Kirby playing well with Jill Scott, and then Nikita Paris and Lucy Bronze kind of tearing up the right side, that could cause problems for the U.S. I'm less concerned about the opposite side of the pitch, and not overly concerned with the England center backs. So like if I'm a US fan, but if I'm an England fan, those center backs really need to clean it up. They can't have, we've seen it in their last few matches, 60, 65 minutes, they start to shut off mentally and just have lapses. That's not going to fly here. And they need to be locked in throughout this game. And so should be an excellent match, which, I mean, it's the semifinals of the World Cup. And so I would hope so. And I'm going to agree with you. But I'll say that the U.S. gets the result in regulation. It's going to be a tight one, but I think the U.S. still wins it within 90. And okay. I know you said you think it goes to extra time.
I don't know what it's going to do. I was wondering if it has a high likelihood of going to extra time. I actually think that if the United States were going up against Sweden, somehow that would have a higher likelihood of going to extra time, but the United States would still pull it out like 1-0. But against England, I'm not completely sure.
Got it. All right. And so just some cleanup things. Iniola Aluku is the English player who we couldn't remember, who's on the Fox broadcast. And then Sal is more concerned about the team as a whole having a bad day rather than like just a letdown. And I'm not as concerned about the team as a whole having a bad day. I think you could see one or two players having poor matches, but I would be shocked if the team as a whole or even 5 or 6 players have a letdown. I think this team is too strong mentally and is too prepared over the course of their careers to all have a poor match. So that's where I stand on that. Patrick also is concerned about Nikita Paris and Lucy Bronze wrecking the U.S. backline. Matt, any final thoughts from today or previews or anything else you would like to add?
Nope. Just looking forward to the next match. And Sal, I tried to look up where I got those pickups, and that guy is no longer in business. So sorry.
All right. Jeff, Sal, Patrick, thank you all for being here, interacting with us while we recorded live on YouTube. If you're listening to the podcast, we record live on YouTube. Come hang out with us right after the matches end. And you can interact with us while we record. If you liked what you heard here, please leave us a review on iTunes, 5 stars, and a written review would be awesome. We would greatly appreciate it. Only takes a few seconds, and it really helps us out. So please consider doing that. You can follow us on Twitter at BT Soccer Pod. Matt, what's your Twitter handle?
At Northwood Guitar.
Our email is bros.talking.soccer@gmail.com. Check out our website, brostalkingsoccer.com. You can read about myself, my brothers, check out our past episodes. And we got other content on there, videos and all kinds of stuff store. So if you want to support us, check that all out. And I think that's all. Matt, thanks so much for talking with me today.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
Listeners, viewers, thank you so much for being here. And we'll be back on Tuesday. We got 2 days off. We'll be back Tuesday recapping US versus England. Have a great couple of days. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. Say, everybody. And Jeff, Patrick, and Sal, thank you guys for being here, interacting with us, and hope you guys have a great day. I think it's Saturday. Is it Saturday?
It is Saturday.
All right.
Yes.
So all right. So go enjoy your weekend. That's awesome. I completely lose track of days when we're doing this. So awesome. All right. That is fantastic. So go enjoy your weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you.